Department of Justice Special Counsel John Durham testified in front of the House Judiciary Committee yesterday about reporting on the FBI's Russia investigation and the 2016 presidential election. Let's hear some more of what he had to say in his opening statement.
As our report details, the FBI was too willing to accept and use politically funded and uncorroborated opposition research, such as the Steele Dossier. The FBI relied on the dossier in FISA applications, knowing that it was likely material originating from a political campaign, a political opponent. It did so even after the President of the United States, the FBI and CIA directors and others received briefings about intelligence suggesting that there was a Clinton campaign plan underway to stir up a scandal tying Trump to Russia. The accuracy of the intelligence was uncertain at the time, but the FBI failed to analyze or even assess the implications of the intelligence in any meaningful way. When the FBI learned that the primary source of information for the Steele Dossier, which was basically the guts of the narrative about there being a well-coordinated conspiracy involving Trump and the Russians, when they learned that Danchenko was the primary subsource for those reports, it was at a time when the FBI already knew that Danchenko himself had previously been the suspect of an FBI espionage investigation. He was suspected of being a Russian asset.
He also had this to say about the matter.
Although our work exposed deep concerns concerning facts about the conduct of these investigations, our report should not be read to suggest in any way that Russian election interference was not a significant threat. It was. Nor should it be read to suggest that the investigative authorities at issue no longer serve important law enforcement and national security interests. They do.
So there was, so John Durham is getting some criticism in a lot of directions. Like I said, I think he brought a lot to the table there, exposing further how the Steele Dossier was utterly garbage, how the FISA warrant surveillance of Trump campaign aide Carter Page was totally inappropriate and contrary to proper FBI procedure. So I think this is useful. It doesn't go, so from the Democratic perspective, it was, they're mad that he's calling into question their precious little darlings in the FBI. How dare he, tying himself to Trump. There was like a vague kind of light threat from Steve Cohen saying, you're tying yourself to Trump. Your reputation is over. It was totally embarrassing. But from the conservative standpoint or the right-wing perspective, I think there's some frustration that he didn't go further. Also, I'm seeing some criticism of him because he did substantiate that, in his view, Russian forces did attempt to interfere in the election, which is even too much of an admission for some people. I think it is true that Russia attempted to interfere in our election. You don't have to overplay that. The U.S. has tried to interfere in other people's elections. Russia's efforts did not change the outcome, and they were not a level of collusion formal collusion with the Trump campaign was not proven. And then far too much was made about like the social media stuff, the bots, that kind of stuff. They did try. It was a pathetic effort that didn't change anything and has been overly relied on by the mainstream media as an explanation of what went wrong. Yeah. But you don't have to like deny that they even tried. They did try.
Yeah, liberals are, it seems like the frustration is that some of the questions he was asked and the answers that he gave indicated to them that he was not as knowledgeable about potential paths for collusion as he maybe should have been. In their view, it's evidence that he did not appropriately investigate those areas, because if you had, you would be able to answer the questions better. So Jonathan Chait wrote a piece in New York Magazine that starts, former special counsel John Durham, who tried and utterly failed to prove that the Russia investigation was a vast anti-Trump conspiracy, testified Wednesday before the House about his work. Durham's hearing, interestingly, revealed a possible explanation for why he threw away a sterling reputation to work with William Barr, fruitlessly pursuing a right-wing conspiracy theory. The man seems to have become so hopelessly brain poisoned by Fox News, he has lost all touch with facts outside of the Republican information bubble. And he says he seemed to be unaware of the major factual elements of the alliance between the Trump campaign in Russia, and that this came out in the course of the exchange. Specifically, there was some line of questioning by Eric Swalwell about how, quote, Trump tried and concealed from the public a real estate deal he was seeking in Moscow. This was described in the Mueller report, and Durham replied during the exchange, "I don't know anything about that." When Adam Schiff asked Durham if the Russians released stolen information through cutouts, he replied, "I'm not sure." Schiff responded, "The answer is yes," to which Durham responded, "In your mind, it is yes." And those kinds of exchanges to Democrats actually confirms not that Durham researched and didn't find anything about any evidence of collusion, but that the research that he did, the investigation that he did, must have been anemic, useless, shallow, and potentially politically motivated.
Yeah, I like some of Jonathan Chait's writing on other subjects. I don't think he's at all persuasive here. Again, it is not that there was no inappropriate behavior by Russia, and it is certainly not the case that Trump has no inappropriate financial ties with foreign governments. He certainly does, including with Jared Kushner and the Saudi government. This kind of corruption is routine in politics, may also be a factor in the Biden family, vis-a-vis Hunter Biden and various entanglements he has, but I don't want to what about this. The interest is not that it's not that Trump's squeaky clean, it's that the intelligence community and the mainstream media overemphasized and overpromised a narrative of that the election was stolen by Russia that is just utter nonsense. That James Clapper, former director of national intelligence, who has lied, in front of Congress about the pervasiveness of warrantless surveillance on American citizens, said that Russia had more to do with Hillary Clinton losing than Trump did. That it was all that we've been mind controlled, that we're all Manchurian candidates or something. And again, it's especially the social media stuff, the way they talked about how necessary the Russian bots and Russian troll farms were to the equation, the Cambridge Analytica, all that stuff was hyperbolic and frankly conspiratorial and utterly unpersuasive.
Yeah, I totally get that, Robby. But let me ask you about this because, I think this cuts both ways. Jonathan Chait, in his article, he makes the point that Schiff asked Durham if he knew that hours after Trump publicly asked Russia to find Hillary Clinton's State Department emails and release them, Russian hackers made an attempt to hack Clinton's emails. And Durham replied, "If that happened, I'm not aware of that." Now, I was hardly scouring the press for news about the ways that Hillary Clinton was being treated unfairly in 2016. However, that was very big news. It was everywhere. And does it say something? And it doesn't necessarily mean, by the way, that there's actually collusion between Donald Trump and Russia for him to be like, he's Trump. That's the kind of thing he says. Hey, Russia, go attack my enemy. That doesn't mean there's actual collusion there, right? But, it does strike me as odd that someone who was tasked with literally investigating this very thing would be either ignorant of major news events related to the investigation or would claim ignorance in the context of this hearing. Does that strike you as a weird choice?
Maybe he just meant that it was outside. He thought it was outside the purview of what he was looking at because it was not. It was, again, you can say it was morally reprehensible or dubious for Trump to make that statement.
Sure.
It was not. It didn't. It can't be. It's not criminal. It's not. Again, voters can weigh him saying that and choose not to make him president, but ultimately it's on them to do that. The secret cabal of. It starts to sound like what Trump himself said about the 2020 election, that it was stolen because there's sacks of votes that didn't make it to the right place and blah blah blah. And have you looked at the vote? It's that
all
kind of
nothing.
Conspiracy.
I think this is maybe just an optics issue because I don't think that Trump's tweeting, "Hey Russia, go get my enemy," or
come get your boy, come get your girl.
Or Schiff, Schiff asked Durham if he knew that he was aware that Trump's campaign manager passed on polling data to a Russian intelligence agent during the campaign, and Durham replied, "You may be getting beyond the depth of my knowledge," or that kind of that Trump mentioned Hillary's. Just brought this stuff up again and again during the campaign. I think that there might be some pushback from Durham saying, well, that stuff is superficial and that wasn't what the investigation was about. And I'm not going to. Democrats have been trying to use some of those things to prove collusion. And obviously that stuff doesn't prove collusion. So I'm not going to kind of dignify it with a response in the context of this hearing. But I do think that answering, I don't really read the newspapers and listen to the news, you may be getting beyond the depth of my knowledge, et cetera, is offering him credibility as people are looking to see if they should have faith and credit in the investigation that he undertook.
Well, tell us what you think in the comments on this subject, and we'll have more Rising right after this.